Who is this? Dom
Who
Downey.
did this?
Pat Peterson, Sherman, Clowney to Seattle. Seattle draft targets. This is incredible.
Why do I have the world's ugliest mustache?
That's amazing.
I don't think Sherman's going to come back. That's at least somewhat intriguing, but I think he's going to go to like maybe the Jets, for example.
Okay.
Clowney's not coming back. Patrick Peterson, if they want to throw big money at a corner, I'm actually very intrigued by it. I don't think they end up getting any of those guys in the end because they're pretty tight on cap space and are probably going to try and re-sign some of their own players.
Dom Downey looks like the kind of guy that goes to Pro Flowers every single day to make sure his wife is very, very happy. All right, we got a super chat coming in from Sports Fam. Okay, what would you do if you were Seattle's GM to put the team in the best position next season?
I would restructure a bunch of my contracts. I would reduce the cap hits for key players like Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner, etc., so that I could pay some free agents and re-sign some guys to make my team as good as possible now. Screw the future. Cap's going up. I'm not worried about that because once Wilson retires, I'm going to try to rebuild anyway.
This next one's coming in from Sean Knight. Should Seattle pay big money to bring guard like Thuney or Brandon Scherff? Perfect timing.
Possibly. I think where things get tricky for Seattle is if you're throwing, let's just say, $15 million at one of these guards, I think is a fair market price for them.
Yep.
You got to free up that money. Now, you could do it by, restructuring Bobby Wagner and Wilson to bring down their cap hits this year, kick money down the road when the salary cap goes way up. But it's so dicey to invest so much in just one spot. I think it's probably worth it in the end. I would consider it, but here's what ends up happening, right? What happens if a team like the Jets, for example, and let's say Scherff re-signs with Washington, and it's just Joe Thuney out there. You're going to get in a bidding war with the Jets, who have just all of the money available, desperately wanted Joe Thuney last year anyway before he got franchise tagged last second. You're not going to probably win a bidding war if you're Seattle.
True.
So what I think they might choose to end up doing, although I like the idea of going after a big name, is try and find another Brandon Scherff.
Okay.
Very cost-effective. He wasn't elite by any means, but you know what? He wasn't that bad. He wasn't a disaster. And I think if you can find one of those guys, then you have some more flexibility once you get into round 2 or round 4 for Seattle, since they're adding picks, to find good value at the offense line, not be pigeonholed into spending in that particular pick.
Nicholas Pinnell, get a pick. Mitch, should Seattle sign Bruce Irvin?
He asked you, not me.
I was just going to say, so Tom normally does a lot of our Seahawks stuff. I mean, Bruce Irvin was a player that obviously had some run with Seattle. What happened to him exactly this past year? Didn't he get hurt?
He got hurt after week 2.
There was some interest there, I know, from that standpoint, and they wanted to be able to put him as an edge rusher. If he's healthy, he fits in Seattle's scheme, but it also depends on how healthy he is and how much ultimately he's going to ask for.
If it's a one-year vet min deal, heck yeah, let's do it.
Super chat coming in from Troy Daniels. Why do teams who think that all they need is a good quarterback to deliver them a Super Bowl rather than building up their offensive line? Do you think that this is true?
Well, if you don't have a good quarterback, you're screwed.
Correct.
Like, yeah, you could end up being the Bears where you have all the other pieces in place, and maybe you get lucky you have a historically great defense like the Ravens did with Trent Dilfer, or Denver with broken Peyton Manning. But if you're playing just the percentages, having the top flight quarterback and then figuring out everything else, that's going to get you your best chance to having NFL and sustained success too.
All right, y'all. So today's show presented by Pro Flowers. Let the professionals take care of your loved ones on Valentine's Day. It's coming up. Don't be the person that doesn't have anything to give, I don't know, your wife, your daughter, your mother on this special day. They have amazing arrangements of different types of flowers, roses, tulips. I mean, the amount of flowers that they have, it's literally in their name. Maybe you need a charcuterie board. Luckily for you,
still can't believe you know what that is.
I can't spell it, though. So that's why we made the link chatsports.com/flowers and not chatsports.com/charcuterie, because I would have no idea how to get there. But maybe you got a sweet tooth. We'll hook you up there. If you also want flowers and candy, because apparently that's going to make every girl out there happy, go to chatsports.com/flowers. The bottom line is this. 2020 was a hell of a year. Let's hopefully 2021's a little bit better. Show your loved ones that you're thinking about them. 15% off your order. Chatsports.com/flowers. Tom, I can't wait to see what you get me on Valentine's Day.
I'm getting you absolutely nothing.
Debatable.
From Nicholas Pinnell, should Seattle go for Patrick Peterson or an offensive lineman in free agency? I mean, Russ wants an offensive lineman. I think both make some sense. I think that if Peterson's going to command $10+ million, I think I would rather spend that money on a good offensive guard. I wouldn't normally say that, but I also really want to make sure my franchise quarterback is happy, and there are some issues there pretty clearly. If you can get like a Brandon Scherff or a Joe Thuney, I take that guy over Patrick Peterson. Alex Kerrigan, how far would the Seahawks go with a top 3 offensive line and just a decent defense? Big fan. I'll be super chatting more. Keep it up. Thank you, Alex. Hope you're subscribed, by the way, to our Seahawks channel. Links below, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. I mean, the defense was decent this year. If the offensive line becomes top 3, I think they'd be Super Bowl contenders, if not favorites, right? I mean, they haven't been that far moved with a bad offensive line or a mediocre offensive line. Now, I will say this, it's a lot easier said than done getting a top 3 offensive line, but I think they'd be a legit contender. That would have a top 3 offense, top 5 offense. If you have top 5 in one area, decent in the other, especially if it's offense versus defense, you're going to be a real threat. From HR Oaktree, what would Seattle need to trade to get into the first round, and would they do it? Purely from a draft pick perspective, they could move all of their picks this year, and the Bucks at 32 say no, because a second and a fourth are their best assets, and that's not going to get them from the 50s into the 30s. There's just no way. So it would either be a player or a future first-round pick, which you don't have next year, or a future second. So, like, it becomes really tricky. At that point, in reality, guys, Seahawks fans, don't get your hopes up. They're not going to be drafting in round 1. They simply don't have the assets unless they move a player, which is a whole different conversation. From Trenton, Jason Verrett to the Seahawks. He doesn't fit their prototype at corner, but I would have interest still. Like, they need good corners. I would explore Verrett. He's got injury problems in his past, was healthy this year. I would explore it if I were Seattle. I don't think that's the route they're going to pursue because they don't value corners all that much, but I do think that is a good path there for Seattle to at least explore. Johnny Anderson. I saw the Broncos had the 5th best odds at getting Russell Wilson. Any chance that actually happens? What would he be worth? Drew Lock, your entire draft this year, your entire draft next year, and 2 more first-round picks. Like, it's going to be a haul, right? Like, because, again, here's the problem with it with a Russell Wilson trade. Everyone wants him. I'm overvaluing Russell Wilson, but I'm also not. Because Seattle's not going to trade him right now. I know there are odds out there. Denver's at plus 1,000. But with the way Wilson's contract is structured, if Seattle were to trade him, they would add an extra $7 million to his $32 million cap hit this year. So a Russell Wilson trade, I don't buy it. I do not believe it happens in 2021. Now, if he's still being upset in 2022, we can have that conversation next year. But this year, Broncos fans, everyone else, I would not get your hopes up. So will the Seahawks trade Russ? I clearly say no, but you guys can get your votes in. Y for yes, N for no. What do you think? Will the Seahawks move on from Russell Wilson this offseason? Kyle Morris out of DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, and Terry McLaurin. Who is the best receiver out of them? Yes. Honestly, I'm going to go DK, but seriously, there's not a wrong answer. Just what do you want? What type of player do you want? Give me DK, since he's just such an unreal athlete. From William, thoughts on the best free agent lineman? Center is Corey Linsley. Tackle is Trent Williams. Guard is Brandon Scherff. They'll be expensive, but they're really good. Our live mailbags are done live, right? So if you want to be a part of them, you got to subscribe. Hit that big red button. We're on YouTube at youtube.com/chatsportstv. All of our mailbag questions come from our live audience. If you want to stay up to date and be a part of it, join us today by subscribing. From Michael Gary Scott. Will the Seahawks make a run at Aaron Jones? I think that would upset Russell Wilson a lot. Look, Jones is the top free agent back. And the Packers drafted A.J. Dillon in round 2 last year. And I'm not sure Jones will be back in Green Bay. But if the Seahawks get in a bidding war for a back and don't invest in the offensive line, I think Russell Wilson's going to be real angry about that. Like, Jones is a good player, don't get me wrong. There will be interest in him. But if I'm Seattle, I would much rather invest in a great offensive lineman or a good offensive lineman than a running back. That's just the way the NFL is. Well, that's the way Russell Wilson wants to run the offense as well. So make your predictions for me. Where will Aaron Jones sign? Green Bay, Seattle, somewhere else. Maybe even Miami could make some sense. Let me know in the comments. Make your predictions where Aaron Jones will sign. From T-Man, should the Seahawks trade for Orlando Brown, then move Dwayne Brown to right tackle? I don't think so. You have a very good thing in Dwayne Brown at left tackle. That is your best offensive lineman by far. I don't want to have him switch positions late in his career. I would rather keep Dwayne Brown at left tackle than try and find somebody else and go find someone else to fill in at right tackle. I think that is probably a better path for Seattle. In the end, by the way, if Orlando Brown does get moved, I don't think the Seahawks have the draft capital to really be competitive for an Orlando Brown caliber of player. From Theo Henry, what is Sheldon Rankins' market? Ooh, good question. I'm going to go 1 year, fairly cheap prove-it deal. Had some injury history in the past. I think he's been fully recovered from that. I think he's going to have some interest, but it's not going to be like a massive contract. I think he'll sign a 1 year deal, try and cash in once the cap goes up in the future.
This next one's coming in from Megan Itwit. Get a pick. What person who sat out lost their starting job?
I think he means opted out in terms of impact in the NFL. The Williams, who did it for KC.
Okay.
Daryl. That was an impact there. I'm looking at, I don't think any of the Patriots guys, they had a bunch of different opt-outs, lost their job.
6.
I don't think Juwan James lost their job.
Alan Hearns, Albert Wilson, 2 wide receivers for the Dolphins. They're in trouble.
That actually makes some sense. Those guys were border-ish starters.
Correct.
Jameis Lawali from the Cowboys was their fullback, and I'm not sure he makes the roster next year. Same with Maurice Kennedy. I think those guys, if you're a great player, you're going to be fine.
Sure.
If you're a Linval Joseph, for example. But if you're a borderline starter, yeah, I think that might end up being the case there. Now, we have a bunch of different channels here at Chat Sports. Let's go through all of them and make sure if you're a fan of this team, you're subscribed. Our Dallas Cowboys channel, approaching 90K, right there, youtube.com/CowboysTV. The Raiders Report with Mitchell Renz, 73K, youtube.com/RaidersTV. Our 49ers Report, Raiders Report, 49ers Report at 49ers TV, 32K and growing. Our more new channel, Chicago Bears, now almost at 22K. They're live every Tuesday, by the way. YouTube.com/Bears now. And we're not done yet. Our very new Seahawks channel surpassed our Eagles channel, 17.5K. YouTube.com/Seahawks TV. Eagles Now, 16K subscribers. YouTube.com/Eagles Now. Our Chiefs channel, lagging behind because they're just too good, apparently. YouTube.com/Chiefs TV. We have a Detroit Lions channel with our boy Micro Mike. It's at youtube.com/Lions TV. Our up-and-coming Dolphins channel, youtube.com/Dolphins News. And then our 2 newest ones, Broncos Breakdown with producer Sam behind the scenes at youtube.com/Broncos TV, just past 1,000 subscribers. And then our just launched today, Falcons channel. It is brand new. Big things coming over there. Chatsports.com/Falcons TV. And more coming in the near future. So if you're a fan of one of those teams, hit that big red button and subscribe. That way you don't miss out on all of our new channels coming to you from Chat Sports.